What's up, Internet? You're tuning in to episode 125 of the FlipScreen Games Podcast, a weekly video game podcast where two best buds from the same nation this time come together to discuss the wide world of video games. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined this week by my very good friend, my oldest friend in podcasting, Mr. Ken Hicks.
What to do? What to do? Glad to be back.
Welcome back to the show. We got another American takeover this week because, of course, we are here to talk about the latest state of play, January 2024 state of play, the first one of 2024. And it is in the wee hours for our friends across the pond. So, of course, I had to bring back our friend Ken for a long overdue return to the show. So welcome back to the show, Ken. Thank you for joining us.
Yo, thanks. It's been a couple of months, and it's like, even though they couldn't join this episode, at least they have universal health care. So, like, who's the real winner
They got
here?
that going for them. They got that going for them. Yeah. So you'd think though, because of that, they'd maybe be willing to miss a little bit of sleep to come and do a podcast. But that's just me. Maybe that's a toxic American attitude.
It's that attitude, which is why Americans die at a younger age. But like, I'm not going to get down that.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
That's
you know what? I'm here working. So let's make it happen. So here's the skinny. We're going to talk about everything we saw at today's state of play. We are a couple hours removed from it now. We are finally ready to sit down. I've had some time to ruminate on it. And I don't know about you, Ken. I think this is, a low bar, but I think this is in the upper echelon of state of plays. I think this is one of the better ones they've had in terms of overall pacing. And I think that this was one of those shows where, like, maybe it's not like an S rank type presentation, but I think it's one where probably everybody can walk away with something that they're excited about. And I think that's a good bar to clear.
Yeah, it had a lot of diversity in it. It had a few indie gems. You had some, trailers from games that we wanted to see that's coming out. I feel like a few of the announcements I was spoiled about in advance. Like, specifically, like, I found out about that Sonic Shadow Generations about like 3 or 4 days ago.
Beforehand too.
Lots of leaks and rumors about the Until Dawn remaster, essentially. But it was nice to get official confirmation. And even though I knew it was coming, it was still nice to see.
Sure.
And
it takes away some of the hype factor, but I'm not going to hold that against the presentation for, stuff leaking, right?
Yeah. And it was nice to see it in action, not for nothing.
For sure.
But, there's one game in particular, too, actually, I'm hella excited for. But, like, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. You feel me?
Yeah. I walked away interested in a couple of these games, and I think there was one or two games that I was decidedly not interested in that ended up catching my attention, right? And whether or not I actually play them, is I guess a different question. But I think the fact that the trailers, I think, made those games show well, and that is something to be praised, right? Where it's like, if it's a game that I'm immediately kind of like, I'm out on this. And then by the end of the trailer, I'm like, okay, you got something for fans of the genre, at least. Like, that's a good trailer, right? That's a good presentation. You're winning hearts and minds. And that's what these things are made to do, right?
Yeah. And one thing I'll give this presentation that a lot of other presentations don't do well, almost all of the games actually showed gameplay, which was nice. I was like watching a video with Sakurai. He's like, hey, you need to show the gameplay, not just like have a trailer and things like that. And there was still a little bit of that here and there, but for the most part, I think like everything had a little bit of gameplay in it, to the best of my knowledge. I'm trying to think of anything that didn't actually show gameplay.
I don't know if there was a game that didn't have gameplay. I guess as we go through it, we'll see. Yeah, well, as we go through, we can, I guess, remember and
confirm.
See, right? If there's, but I don't think there were, and I think that there are a couple games here, that are kind of a big deal, and I'm a little surprised we're not talking about that. I'm not seeing more conversation about them, but we'll get into it. Let's talk about it. I want to just go through this one in chronological order because I think in terms of like deciding, what's the most hype announcement or whatever and working our way back is like, this didn't feel like that kind of event to me. It feels like there's not a lot of A's. It's mostly B's that if you're the right person, they're like S's, and it's like, okay, so we'll just go
Yeah,
through it, right?
and then the one definitive S took up 25% of the showcase, but I digress.
Yeah, yeah. Is anybody surprised that Hideo Kojima was excited to take up 20% of a show's runtime? Because I'm not. But we'll talk about it in a minute. Let's start things off where Sony did with Helldivers 2. So this is one that we have seen it already, right? It was we had seen gameplay, but it was one of those trailers that was more talky and cinematic than it was gameplay oriented, right?
A lot of
This
quick cuts.
Yeah, exactly, right? And this was a lot more emphasis on gameplay and really I think showing you what the moment to moment feels like rather than kind of just highlighting like cool hype trailer worthy moments or whatever that are played for comedy or whatever.
Yeah.
um, I think this looks pretty sick. Like I don't know if this is one that's gonna. I think it's a kind of niche type of game. I don't think that there's a huge audience for the like arcadey horde mode shooter, but I think like for the folks that this type of game speaks to, I could see it striking a
So like
chord.
this is what I'm worried about with this game,
Hit
right?
me.
It comes out in I think like 9 days, like
It comes out
February
on
9th,
February 8th. Yeah.
8th. Also like just over a week, right? And with a lot of these other games that are coming out in like a month or two or a little bit further that they had in this presentation, they actually had like gameplay breakdown, like this is what the flow's like, this is what you can expect, this is why we are dope, right? I think that having a flashy trailer like this that close to the game coming out doesn't instill a lot of trust for me personally. And then the second thing that kind of came up as a red flag towards the end of the trailer, they have the scene with the guy like coming out in like a mech, like shooting things. And then the very bottom, you see coming soon after launch. So you're going to have like an entire mech gameplay mechanic that's not going to be there at launch. And the way they introduced it, I don't know. I'm getting mixed vibes from
That's
this one. I
interesting
don't
to
know.
me because, like, I got a totally different read on this trailer because, like, you mentioned the flashiness, right? And I think to me, there are moments of this that still have that energy, the flashiness to it. But like, I feel like by and large, this is a pretty gameplay oriented trailer. It shows like what it looks like when you're in a group of people fighting, like against one of the kind of like hordes of enemies versus like some of the bigger like boss type enemies as well. And like, I think that to me showed like a pretty good pace of the different types of gameplay. And there's like the stuff on the turrets, there's the stuff with the heavy artillery, and like to me, I'm like, okay, like I'm getting a sense of like what the weapons play like or like how that progression works or whatever. Um and then, the bit with like the mech thing, to me, I also took that as being promising, right? Because I'm like, oh, like that is them teasing the fact that there is a post-launch plan for this game and that it's not a game that's just going to come out and then not have
And then
anything for you to
die.
look forward to. I think the idea that this game could come out, you'll get into it, you'll learn the core mechanics, and then shortly after launch, whether that's 2 months, 3 months, 6 months from now, this new mech thing becomes available. To me, that's cool because that's like breathing a new it's like adding a map or something like that, but like way sicker, right? Of like, oh shit,
True.
that's a cool new thing. And you get a couple months worth of people like getting their feet wet and trying to build community around the game and like getting feedback from the players and because I'm sure that they've already gotten that through like testing and everything, but like any game developer will tell you there's a big difference between testing and then like when it comes to mass market. And if the game pops off, then you know that's gonna you're gonna get more data in a day than you've gotten in the entire time that you did pre-release testing, right?
Yeah,
Um,
you can't prepare. Well, you can, but you can't properly prepare for like that type of larger launch. And
no, it's really tough.
I will say this: the game is launching at $40. So, in the age of $70 first party games, that could be enough to kind of push me over the edge if it does review well. If I do hear a lot of positive praise,
Yeah.
like Power Worlds, for example, is a great example of a game that's like 30 or $40 that a lot of people wouldn't pay $70 for, but they'll give it a shot for 40. of enough of their friends, or they hear enough positive praise about it. But
Especially when
we'll
you think about the
see.
fact that, there was I forget the name of it, if maybe you could look this up for me because every other screen on my computer is occupied running the show right now. There was a game that was making headlines this year or last year, I should say, and it was an indie game that was, like, the top FPS on Steam, and it, like, beat out Call of Duty, and it was a game made by, like, one person. I can't remember the name of the game. If you can find it, that would be great. I'm sure people in the comments are screaming right now. But, that game I think is really interesting to me because the idea that this game could come out as a $40 title and potentially find an audience because Call of Duty didn't hit last year and there isn't, Destiny had a weak deal. Like a lot of the big shooter games, I think have like left some they like left the door open, you know? And I think a game like Helldivers, like, especially if it does have a good post-release plan in place could totally come out and like carve a niche for itself. Even if it's not a big massive hit, it can be enough to, be a kind of step up for Housemark, which oh right, no, not Housemark. I always mix this up. Uh
Arrowhead.
yeah, Arrowhead.
Yeah, yeah.
Housemark did not Helldivers. They did the oh my god, I'm sorry. This is not a worthwhile diversion right now. They did
Uh,
another game that is similar in style to the original Helldivers, and I'm always like, "Oh yeah, it's Housemark made Helldivers." They didn't. Sorry about
yeah,
that.
it'll come back to the moment the podcast ends, so
It
it's
sure
fine.
will, as it often does. But this is an interesting one, right? Because I think like this is kind of the first. We heard so much about Sony's like live service initiatives, and Steve and I have been talking a lot about our theory that they are getting gun shy and kind of pulling back on that because it's a lot of money to invest in something that has, become a tougher market as of late as people have less money to throw around. And I think a lot of the legacy titles are cementing their status as the games that people play. Uh
Yeah, and it's like these live service games are making bank. I
yeah.
think it was I want to say EI, not EI, EA. Fuck. It's like 70% of their profits last year came from like microtransactions in their games. And
Mhm.
I'm just like, "Ayo, FIFA, you got to get it together, buddy." Um
And that's the thing, man. Like now it's the FC Club, right? EA FC Club because they don't have the FIFA license anymore. But yeah, those
uh,
cards, man, those they make money hand over fist, dude.
yeah,
But you're seeing revenue decline on a lot of these games, and a lot of the newer games that are trying to come out are obviously not. You've seen a bunch of those kind of smaller games come up and close their doors, right? Even something like Rumbleverse that was backed by Epic, right? Um, was
that game's
it's gone.
wait, what was it? It's gone?
Yeah,
No,
that's
no, I'm getting confused with that
that was the battle
Scooby
royale
Doo
wrestling one that they
Batman
did.
Royal
Oh,
fighting game.
Multiverses. Yeah, that
Multiverses,
game
yeah.
went away and was like, "Oh, by the way, that was all early access. We're gonna come back with the game remade." It's like, "Okay, we'll
At
see."
some point, and that game was dope.
I
Like they
loved
didn't
that
need
game.
to do that. They didn't need to
Loved
do
it.
that. Like just keep it
But
out.
that's the
But
thing is it was falling off. Like it's player base like plummeted, and it's really hard to get one of these games. When they hit, they make a lot of money, but if they don't hit, you spend a lot of money on something that didn't connect, and
will
that's tough. So I love the idea that Helldivers is kind of existing in this like double A $40 like I think that's really cool. And I hope this game connects and I hope it works for Sony and I hope that, the fact that it's going to launch day and date on PC means that even if it has a smaller player base, that it'll be like a healthy game that's easy to get into and play, right? I think that would be really cool to see. I like the original a lot. I played it on the PSP. And
never played the original, so I have no stake in this franchise. So maybe that's why I'm so pessimistic. Um, and I did hear that this one's very different from the original from a gameplay
it is
perspective.
very different. Yeah, the
Yeah,
original is like
so
a top-down type thing, and this is, like, definitely going for that more mainstream, like, third-person action kinda thing, so I hope it works out for him. It's a gamble that I hope pays off. I really do.
yeah, and not for nothing. I hope it does work out, even if it's not for me, because we do need. I feel like double A games are healthier in the grand scheme of things for the industry than just
People have
making
been talking
billion
a
triple A games.
Yeah, I totally I think that you're right that, like, I think the future of the industry is seeing some of those games come back because, like, I think we've there's been a lot of conversation, right? Like, even on this podcast where I've talked about PlayStation and people, bring up the report about how Spider-Man, right? How much that costs and how many copies it had to sell to break even and blah blah blah. And it's like there's this conversation of like, is AAA becoming unsustainable? And it's like, yeah, probably, right? And like I think that maybe you're going to see a point where there are fewer studios that are capable of making AAA games, and you see more of a return to that double A, where it's like, yeah, like we could make a really great game that isn't, it doesn't have to be pushing graphics if it's fun and it has a good story and it looks cool and like, and we'll talk about some of the games in this that we'll talk about later that are more stylized than they are like, modern. Like,
Anything else? Like, spoiler alert, Dave the Diver, hype, but I digress. We'll get there. Um,
so I want to talk about the next game that they brought up, because this was one I really found interesting. It was a longer presentation, and a game that I definitely like did not immediately was kind of like, this is not for me. And the more they talked about it, the more they showed of it, I was like, this actually looks pretty dope. Which is Stellar Blade. Um,
yeah, yeah,
I
Stillblade
think
looks
this
pretty
looks
good.
pretty cool, actually.
So I have mixed feelings. Not to go back to Helldivers 2, but I kind of wish they did what Stellar Blade did with their trailer, in the sense of showing us what the gameplay loop looks like a few more voiceovers, like let us a little bit more about the game. I guess like that's what I wanted from Helldivers this close to release, especially since Stellar Blade also comes out like later this year, like
It's April 26th, so yeah, not far off.
yeah, so only a couple of months away. And I thought that they did a good job selling the game. But have you ever played Near uh, Automata? Or
I haven't. I've never one I got around to.
you see, if you played Near, there are certain aspects of the story and the trailer and the gameplay style that just very strongly reminds me of Near. And that is one you should play that game. It's worth it. Like
Isn't that a good thing though?
it's a great game. But it's almost to the point of like
It's too much.
uh,
You feel like it's like we already have
Hey,
near at
hey,
home.
mom, can we eat near for dinner? No, we
Yeah.
have near at home, and then it's Stellar Blade.
Okay.
You know
Interesting.
what I mean? Now, I don't say
Yeah.
that to
Yeah.
downplay the game because it looks smooth. Even if from like a story perspective, there are some
Can
similarities.
I throw something at you?
Um, yeah,
Do you think this has the potential to be like a Lies of P situation where when you first see that game, you're like, yeah, the Pinocchio Dark Souls? I don't know about all that. And then it comes out and you're like, oh, this actually was pretty fucking sick, right? Like,
actually, very much so. I think that despite the similarities, if it can do a few enough things different, and if the action gameplay is smooth and tight, and if it has some depth to it, it can 100% like hold its own, right? I don't want to say this game looks bad by any means. It looks very polished. I'm just getting like a slight sense of like I've been there. It's like what makes
I
this
get that.
different? Like if you have to pick this game or Near to play first, uh, it's going to be hard for me to not to recommend Near. You know what I mean? At least based off the trailer. Obviously, the game's not out. I'm being a bit harsh on it. Um,
Hey,
uh,
that's reasonable though. It's reasonable for you to not like feel moved by it, you know? Um,
that's it. I'm not moved. It just looks like hey, they did a good job. I can tell this was made by a passionate team. It doesn't look like a cash grab or it doesn't look sloppy or anything like that. It's just I'm going to wait for those reviews to drop.
I feel
Um,
you. Yeah. Cause I also feel that way in terms of like, I don't know that this is like a day one purchase for me, but I think where I'm at with it after this trailer is I think if this game, if excuse me, apologies. If pre-release, right, like say there's early reviews, right, because the game is good and they're confident that it's good. And everybody's like, yo, this is a 9, like this is an 8, like this is a really, really, cool action game with a fun story that, and everything that I'm like, then I think I might be won over. Cause yeah, like you were talking about the look that this gave it, the gameplay loop. And that was really where I started to get won over by it. Cause I think when I was just looking at like the moment to moment gameplay, I'm like, okay, like this looks like one of those kind of like it's like the kind of games that Platinum makes, right? Where it's like, okay, it's a very stylish, action, like hack and slash type experience or whatever. But when they were getting into the like here's how like the story will branch based on decisions that you make,
It's how you upgrade your character and how they get stronger throughout the game,
and
and
then I was like, okay, like that. See, like those are things that I like. So like I like that kind of action hack and slash gameplay. But if it's not connected to a story or a world or characters that I can invest myself in, it's tough for me to really buy in. And I don't know. Like there was personality here that the more they showed of it, the more I was like, okay, like I don't know, like there's something here. I definitely think this is a game that I could see connecting with fans of that genre, and I wonder if it's maybe broad enough for it to be a crossover hit for somebody like me.
yeah. And then the last thing I'll say on this, right? This year there are a ton of really good RPGs coming out, slash are out, like Yakuza, Persona 3 Reloaded. We got Final Fantasy at the end of the next month. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Or by the time the people see this month, right? I'm gonna need something to break up that RPG masses up. And if this game is good, this might be the one, in
Yeah.
my opinion. But that's all I got to say there. But now, real quick, let me take the lead on this next one.
Okay.
Yo, listen. Sonic Generations, one of my favorite Sonic games of all time, is getting a re-release with Shadow the fucking Hedgehog. Let's go. Yo,
What a
listen.
time. What a time to be alive, huh?
I'm so blessed because like I got this game back on the PlayStation 3 years ago, and it's been on Steam for a while, but I just like playing on my TV. It's if I have the choice of doing console gaming or PC gaming, 9 times out of 10, if it's an option, I'll do it on the console. And
Yeah, I
aside
feel
from
you.
Steam, Generations has been locked on like the PS3 360 era. You know what I mean? So the
Yeah.
fact that this game is getting a remake and they're bringing in Shadow the Hedgehog, like listen, I'm not as big of a Sonic fan as Ed, like you know Ed, but I do love me some hedgehogs. Don't get it twisted. And the crazy thing is that the main enemy that Shadow is fighting in this trailer, the big bad of this his part of the story, is freaking the same enemy from the Shadow the Hedgehog video game.
Love that.
uh,
Love that for
I
him.
I never thought they would acknowledge it ever again.
So
Shadow the Hedgehog.
weird that this is like a soft sequel to Shadow the Hedgehog in that way. Like that's adorable.
Yeah,
Um
the only thing he's missing is a gun. Like, give him a gun.
I have two notes on this. Because first of all, three things actually. Okay, I got some thoughts for you, Ken. So first of all, love this. Love this as a decision. I love that they are doing the what is it? It's the Mario 3D All Stars plus Bowser's Fury thing, right? Where it's like re-release a classic game on modern hardware and add a short secondary campaign that is maybe not enough for its own game is like that's a great formula, and I love to see somebody else repeating it and trying to do, kind of their own spin on it. Um so that said, my only criticism of this is what they should have made a cute little pudgy retro Shadow, right? I mean, come on.
You see that would have been too perfect. That would have been
I
too perfect.
I just feel like I could use that personally.
Or maybe that's the end game twist. They don't want to spoil it in the trailer, but you get to the end of
Maybe.
this campaign,
I
you
love that.
got Chippy Shadow. Like we can dream, and
Now let
to
me
kind of give.
now
Oh,
let me lay one on you though. I've never played Sonic Generations.
that's not surprising, right? I feel like if you didn't play it when it came out during that generation, it's very easy to slip through the cracks. And you're
You think
not
it
like the
holds up?
biggest. Yes,
Okay.
definitely.
Sick.
100%. Because it's basically they go through like all the old school Sonic levels, and you go through them
For sure.
twice. One in the classic 2D Sonic style, if you really like that, and the other one in the more modern 3D Sonic style, but like not in like the choppy back 3D Sonic. Some of those 3D games are hit or miss. Even the 3D
Yeah, of
stages were
course.
all like pretty spot on, right? But then
I've
again, full
No, go ahead, go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say, full disclosure, I'm a little biased. I'm the dude who got all 10 endings in Shadow the Hedgehog. So I
Ooh,
digress.
okay. All right. So you're a sicko.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah. And
that's
I
fair.
loved it.
Because my thing is, I really like Sonic, but I consider myself kind of a lapsed Sonic fan, right? Where it's like when I was a kid, the original games re-release on every goddamn console that's ever come out after the Sega Genesis, right? So it's like I played them a lot, like them a lot. I played the Sonic Advance games on the Game Boy Advance. Those were really fun. I was into the Sonic Adventure games and all that stuff. But, Sonic Heroes on kind of rough, right? And it wasn't until Mania that I really got back in. And aside from that, these 3D ones have just not been hitting these last couple years. So Generations was one that I heard a lot of good things about, but it came out while we were in college and I had no money. So
Yo,
never
fair.
got around to that one. So
Uh,
I
I think I
love
got it for
this.
Christmas, something like that.
What's that?
I think I got it for like Christmas or something like that when
There
I
you go.
did get it. But I
Um,
digress.
so
It's worth your time.
I'm excited that I got another shot at it. I think this is cool, and it's great to see, folks get another chance to pick it up on modern hardware and the new Shadow content is obviously something that I think a lot of fans have probably been waiting for a long time. So, yeah, really cool to see.
Yeah, no, like that's gonna be a good time.
Coming in the fall.
Also, yeah, and also not a coincidence that Sonic 3 with Shadow it comes out in theaters later this year. There's definitely some pre-planning synergy there. Not mad at it. I got my boy Shadow back,
Yeah.
but I digress. Now, this next game though, ZZZ. In the
Zenless Zone Zero. Great name. Great name, Hoyoverse. I'll give it to you. I like it.
in the beginning of this episode, I praised how a lot of the trailers and things they showed off had actual gameplay in it. I think this is the exception. Like I don't really recall any
Yeah.
gameplay. And isn't the company who made this game like primarily known for like
This is
gotcha games?
this is the team that makes yes, first of all. But yeah, they make
Genshin
Genshin
Impact.
Impact and then they have God, what is it? Hoyo Rail Starverse or something like that? Honko Rail? I can't remember.
Oh, my boy Derek loves that game. He's trying to
Um
get me to play it, and I say no.
yeah, and then they
But
have
I
another one too.
digress.
They have they have a couple games that are really successful and hot, you know? So I think this is one of those if you're into it, you're into it, and if you're not, then you're never gonna play it. But for the folks that Hoyoverse is I think they seem to from my as an outsider, right? Like my perspective on them is they're the ones that get that type of game fucking right. So if you
Know what they're
like that
doing.
kind of game, then they're the jam. So yeah, I think this is one that I'm sure it's gonna come out, it's gonna be a huge success, and nobody I know will play it. And that's fine.
Yeah, I'll give them this one. This game looks like a unlike the other ones that are just like gotcha cash grabs you play forever, and it's like a live service type game. This one looks like it's a game that they're going to just release. Like it's going to have a beginning, middle, and end. I could be completely wrong about that because they didn't show us any
I don't
fucking
think so.
gameplay. But
I don't think so.
um,
I think it'll
but
be that same kind of game. I think that's their thing, and I think they're unapologetically we make those games but good, and it's all right, cool.
yeah, I'm just like
I don't
trying to
think there's
see
anything
like
wrong with a game being that kind of game if it's free to play, and their games are right. So,
I don't think this game's going to be free to play. I think you're going to buy it. Like let me.
do we
I'm
have
gonna
a
do.
price on it?
I'm gonna do a little bit of a searching real quick.
See what you got
If
for
it
me.
is free to play, like I'll eat my shorts and like acknowledge that. Oh no, it is a okay. So I'm wrong. I think it's a free to play game because I'm not looking at any pre-order options or anything like that, and you can like pre-register. So yo, man, I was wrong. I've been wrong before.
Hey,
Okay, yeah.
happens to the
So
best of us.
so it's just like new Stonkai, whatever. Okay, fine. The trailer was 1 minute. We spent too much time talking about it, in my opinion. I don't care.
Yeah, all right. So this is another game I don't really want to talk about very long, if I'm honest, which is Foam Stars, which is the Square Enix game that looks like Splatoon, and they're very upset that everybody keeps comparing it to Splatoon. And my response to that is that if then maybe you don't make a game that looks exactly like Splatoon. I don't know.
Yeah, so like once again, I'm not going to talk too much about this, but I'll say two things. One, they did have some public like demos of the game, and the people who played it said it was different enough from Splatoon, God, Splatoon, and it was pretty fun, right? And secondly, if you have PlayStation Plus, it's free. So it's one of those things where I would never spend like $40 to $60+ on it if that were the
Sure.
case. But if it's free and it's different enough and it's fun, it's sort of like how we got really into Pokemon Unite for those 2 months, right?
Sure,
I'll give
right.
it a shot.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
like, I won't be too hard on it. But if it's fun and it's free, then it's inoffensive. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially in this economy, I'll take free. What's up?
Yeah, I hear you.
um, so yeah, with that said, that's all that really needs to be said there. Dave the Diver, though, coming to the PlayStation. I think it's
With that
already out
Godzilla
on.
DLC, which is cool.
Yeah, like I never actually played it. I know it was like a huge hit on
Yeah,
Steam. I
I
think it
haven't gotten
already.
around to it yet either. It's I really want to. It's just, a lot of really good games came out last year, and it's easy to have one fall through the cracks. But um, I think they've been really smart with how they have like put this game out because it's like it obviously had its moment on PC and it got a lot of conversation, and then it's like they've been like everywhere. Like it's like, oh, it's coming to Game Pass. Oh, it's coming to PlayStation, and it's like they keep reminding me that it's a cool game that I should check out, and like one of these days it's gonna work. I think,
Yeah, like not for nothing. If I need to just like play a quick little game or something like that, I'll probably get it. I'll probably get it. It seems like one of those games that's simple, you lose yourself into. And since they're like, you're right, they're stagnating the release between Steam and then the Switch, now the PlayStation. And then soon, I'm sure they're going to announce it for the Xbox because why
Yeah,
not?
sorry, I said Game Pass, and I definitely meant Nintendo Switch, but hey.
That, that's same, all good, all good. But
It's
uh,
9:30 and I've been working for 12 hours, so please forgive me.
yeah, and you haven't had your chicken parm yet. I'm
Still
sorry,
haven't
buddy.
eaten dinner. Oh my god. All right, let's talk about V Rising. This is another indie game. This one originally came to PC a couple years ago. It looks like in 2022 originally. And it's a action RPG where you play like a vampire, and it's coming to PS4. So, looks pretty good.
Yeah, so like way back in the day, I'm talking like during my iPhone 5 days, right?
Mhm.
There was a game on iOS called I Dracula. 99 cents. I loved it. It was that top-down thing. You just like, collect weapons, shoot, try to progress,
Yeah, yeah.
almost like a roguelike. And this game kind of reminds me of that if given like a full game budget. So even though I know I never even heard of this game before this trailer, right? But I am intrigued, and I'll leave it at that. Hopefully, it's good. I haven't had a good top-down game that I played in quite some time, so I'm about that life.
Yeah, like it,
But
it, it looks cool. This is not usually my genre, but like I think it looks good for what it is, right? Which
yeah,
I think it speaks to a lot of people. So definitely want to keep an eye out for. Next up, this was cool, right? This was a big
this was
announcement.
this was a surprise, and this was rad. Playable trailer 2. Let's go.
Yeah,
PT trailer.
Silent Hill: The Short Message is a like free to play, fully complete experience that you can go check out now. As of it should be live already, right? By the time you're listening to this, you can definitely check it out. And yeah, I mean, it looks really cool. I think it is really neat that they're kind of following up the PT thing with another playable trailer. Like, obviously, that's really
Download it
neat.
while you can.
Right? Yeah, right, get it right now. And, yeah, I mean, I think it was really this was like a cool surprise. It was it looked really good, and I think, this being kind of like they're planting the flag of like we're serious about Silent Hill again, and we have, then they showed off footage of Silent Hill 2 remake that's, in active development but with no firm release date or whatever. Um I think
Yeah,
that's cool.
it is cool, but I will say this. The whiplash that I got going from the short message, which in my opinion looks rad as fuck, to the Silent Hill 2 remake, which that trailer just did not do any favors for my excitement. The Hill 2 remake looks mid. And it's just like after all of those Resident Evil remakes, I feel like they all
Bar's been
greatly
kind of
rose
set.
the bar. It's been raised super high, and there's not a single thing in that Silent Hill 2 remake trailer that made me think, oh, like this can go head to head with like Resident Evil. Horror games are back, baby.
Are
That
you a big are you a big Silent Hill person?
I'm not a huge Silent Hill person, but and to be fair, I'm not a huge Resident Evil person either, aside from 4, right? Um,
Sorry, someone was at my door. I wanted to make sure everything was cool. Go ahead, finish your point.
it's your chicken parm, dude.
I
You gotta
know.
get your love.
All right, sorry everybody.
No, no, it's all good. It's all good. But it's just like, even though the short message, I can tell they were trying to like kind of replicate to a certain extent the first person thing from the playable trailer. It's different. It's Silent Hill. It's free. It's out today. If that short message is good, then I'd be more excited for whatever studio made that and Konami than
Rather than
whatever the
yeah,
hell's
than the
going on with
remake.
Silent Hill 2. Like, hopefully I'm wrong, but just like I don't see it. I don't see it. It's not going to be that good.
Yeah, I don't know.
I'm
I didn't think it looked rough, but I agree with you that I don't think it had the same like shut up and pay attention energy that the Resident Evil remakes carried with them.
Or
Right?
even
Like
the Silent Hill trailer that came on moments beforehand. That had shut up and pay attention to me energy.
sure. Right. And it's like that I think is probably the more important takeaway because that's new and you got to imagine that whatever comes next is going to be if you like that, then that's probably going to be cool too. But we shall see.
Oh,
I do think it's neat to see Konami like continue to like try to
trying.
they're like, "Yeah, we're back, guys. We were gonna prove it, okay? Like it's a thing. We're a thing again." All right, cool.
Yeah, and then the one last thing
I'm
I'll say
game.
about the remake trailer, there's this one shot where the guy's just like beating a monster with like a stick. It's like boom, boom, and then it did like a hard cut to him doing the same exact animation motion to another monster. I'm just like, oh my god, I don't
Oh,
know.
you're gonna be one of those guys now? How many fucking animations for smashing a monster they gotta have, Ken?
Yo, but when you do it like that, it's just it's very obvious. Obviously, like I'm not afraid of them reusing animations, but
It's for
like
the edit. It's to communicate. You know, it's
it was a bad edit, though. That's what I'm saying. I don't care about the reusing of the animations, but don't put them back to back. So this is like, like I don't want that. I don't want that. I didn't ask for that. You know what I did ask for though? Judas.
Yo, what the fuck is up?
Judas.
How is this
Let's
not
go.
the end? This is
Let's
such a
go.
bigger deal than another Death Stranding thing. Come on. We've been Judas. Come
Yo,
on.
listen,
This
listen.
looks fucking awesome. And we've been waiting for this game for like 10 years. What are you kidding me?
Listen, Bioshock, and even though some people say Infinite hasn't aged well, they're wrong. I'll just say that. Bioshock and Bioshock Infinite, two of my favorite first-person shooter games of all time. Like the world building, the story, the way everything intertwines with one another. Just like an absolute phenomenal franchise, in my opinion. And I'm looking forward to the movie. I hear they got like the guys behind Chernobyl to work on or something like that. But
Yeah.
that's a different conversation. I don't want to get too far off topic. But just seeing the next big game from his mind and the trailer, like, really set the vibe of what to expect. The gameplay, like, I am very, very excited for this one. This one's gonna be that ass. That one's gonna be fire.
Yeah, this one definitely I think just right like stem to stern, right? Like it's like it has that sauce, right? Like it's like the intrigue is there, right? Like there's a teasing of a deeper world and you know something that like that kind of sinister nature, right? That like his worlds are so well known for and everything. Like, yeah, man, like at the very least, right? Like, you know, what we saw here, I think definitely really, really got me excited to see more. And the idea that it is, you know, hopefully not far off is really exciting after so much
Yeah, it's
time.
been in development for quite some time, so I'm hoping it's sooner rather than later. But at the same time, take your time, dude. Like, if this is your baby, make it good.
Yeah.
What is it? Like a rush game is forever bad, but a delayed game's eventually good.
Yeah. That's what they say. That's what they love to quote Miyamoto. Um yeah, I don't know. I'm excited. I'm really excited about that one. Really excited about that one. So then we got a surprising acknowledgement of PSVR 2 with two games made by third party partners with Metro Awakening and Legendary Tales. I thought Metro Awakening looked good, for, a VR shooter. I thought Legendary Tales looked a little jank, if I'm honest.
Yeah, we're just gonna lump the two VR games in together. Yeah, Metro looks good. Legendary Tells, it needs a little bit more sauce, in my opinion. Just like a little bit more seasoning. You know what I mean? Uh,
Yeah, I don't know about that one. I really don't. I really
so
don't.
like, my big thing with PlayStation VR 2 is that they had a huge missed opportunity because none of the games from VR 1 are backwards compatible with VR 2. That
Yeah.
to me just doesn't make sense. Like if they could have figured out a way to make it backwards compatible, because
I
as of
think
right
it's
this second, like what's the reason to buy a PSVR 2?
there isn't
Like,
a great one, right? Like, it's like, why wouldn't you buy the Quest 3 instead, right? And it's like, I feel like, it's such a tough thing because the fact that they decided to tie PSVR 1 to the PlayStation Move controllers, it's like, what are you gonna make,
I
like
guess.
you have to keep
Uh,
this fucking extremely obsolete control scheme supported, and you gotta keep printing them, and, it's like, it's tough, it's like, I agree with you that it was, I think, a mistake, but, I
yeah, and
get
even if
them
it weren't
wanting
all
to
the
leave it
games,
behind, right?
yeah, but even if it weren't all the games, so they gave developers the option to upgrade their controls to work with VR2
And that's the
and
thing is
therefore get more cells.
they do that, but then you gotta buy the game again because it's like, what, you think that the developers wanna upgrade it for free? It's like, how many copies are
Ugh.
they selling already? It's a VR game, right? Like, can't be affording to go back and do work for free to make a free update.
Yeah, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess you're right.
It's
But
tough.
like,
It's an I absolutely understand, the consumer frustration there, and also, I feel like it's a damned if you do and damned if you don't. I think either reality sucks for them, and I think they chose the option they thought, would hurt the least, probably because they also didn't expect it to be a success, and I think they probably knew that PSVR 2 was not gonna be as successful as PSVR 1, and I think that's why they clearly do not have a robust support plan for it, right?
how
Like,
much is PlayStation VR 2? Like,
it's like the same as a PlayStation.
how much is? Oh, Jesus Christ!
$500, right?
It's like $550, mate.
Yeah, man.
That's
Nuts.
more than the PS5. Oh man, to play to play that
Yeah, and it's like,
to play Legendary Tales.
there just isn't the library there, and it's like, by all accounts, the technology is exceptional, but it's like, yeah, man, but what's the library look like? And it's weak, you know?
Yeah, no, no, and it's like the only reason Sony's doing this is because they just want to have a consistent footprint in the VR market. Because I do believe that as time goes on, like especially over the next 10 years, even though I said that 10 years ago, it will blow up. It will get better,
I don't
and
know
they
if that
want to
will.
have these people
I
like
kinda I kinda
developing
I
and
get
things like
less
that.
and
I don't
less
know.
bullish about VR as it goes on. I don't know. I don't know. We'll see. I mean, like, obviously, Apple's getting in the game, and I just feel like it's like, man, these things cost so much money, and I feel like their experiences you get from it are just not there. And I think in a time where we're going into a recession and people have less money to burn, it's the same reason that games as a service is a model that I think is going to continue to struggle in the next couple of years. Is that like, do you really want to spend $500 on a VR headset when you could buy a PlayStation 5?
Well, or you can get the Apple one for $3,500.
Exactly. It's like, who's buying that?
That's a car.
Yeah.
Oh
And
man,
it's like, yeah, like, it does a lot of really cool shit, but like, it's a lot of
but
money.
like,
It's a
yeah,
lot of money. That's like multiple months rent for some people. It's like,
literally.
that's crazy, I don't know. So, we'll see. I think that they released the PSVR 2 because they invested R&D in it at a time when they thought VR was going to continue to grow, and as the market has stagnated, they've realized that it's not a core part of their business like they thought it would be, and that continuing to invest in it is probably not the smartest thing, and that they're slowly pulling away, and that in the same way that they did the PSP, and that was a big hit, and then they put out the Vita, and it wasn't, and they pulled out, and they gave up, and they moved on. I think that's what's about to happen with them in VR. That's my prediction, but
Yeah, they
we'll
they
see.
just
I've been
they
wrong before.
yeah, but only time will tell. You know what will be dope though?
Yeah, I'll tell you, Ken. a word from our Patreon supporters for the month of February. And of course, they are Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valens, Earth Visitor, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, aka Sobi, Snackago, Steve Stompy, Susan Likes Cats and also Boobies, Ty the Dude, and Wakahula. Thank you all so much for your support over on patreon.com/FlipScreenGames. You're all the reals to the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. Remember, if you want to show your support just like they did, if you want to write into the show for our question block segment, if you want to get involved in the community and keep the conversation rolling between episodes by joining our Discord channel, you can do all that and much more by heading over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you will find all the ways that you can get involved with the community or show your support for the show. However you choose to get involved, thank you for tuning in for another episode of the Flip Screen Games podcast. Ken, we're back. What's the next game?
Next game. Never played the first one. And I did not care about this game, but this trailer might have sold me.
Yo.
I would probably say that this trailer sold me on a game more so than any other trailer. Like, not to jump ahead, Death Stranding, I was already going to buy that. The trailer just got me more hype. But this was something that I had little interest in. But now I'm like, okay, like actually though, that looks kind of fire, actually.
I gotta say, I think this one just became a day one purchase for me. I think it was the last trailer that they shared, which was like, I want to say at Summer Game Fest or something like that. It was the first time that they showed like what the combat looked like and some of the like story stuff. And I was like, yo, this looks really cool. And like, I was actually interested in the original one back in the day. And it was just one of those games I never got around to. Again, I think it was when I didn't have any money. And
2012 tracks.
Right? Yeah. So yeah, like it was always one that I was like, looks cool. I've heard it's really good. I know it had like a re-release on PC, I think, that was like, oh, it's like fucking really good now and whatever. I remember it having that groundswell. So like when they announced the sequel, I was like, cool. Like maybe this is my time to jump in, right? I would love that. Last trailer, I was like, okay, this looks sick. I think this might be for me. This one, I'm like, I'm in. I'm fucking in. This looks fucking fire.
Yeah, I can point out the exact moment I said, "Oh, I'm sorry, Dragon's Dogma. I was unfamiliar with your game." It was the part where they cast like an ice spell, created a pillar of ice, ran up the ice, and then jumped and slashed them with this. I was like, "Yo,
dude,
so that's what this is about."
And it's like there was a moment. I think there's a moment before that where they showed like a cool little like bow and arrow like kicking off and shooting. And I was like, all right, like this looks
like
fun.
bow and arrow magic tracking type thing. Like
I was like, yeah, this looks tight. And then that happened, and I was like, whoa, okay, like what the fuck? Like that's sick. I'm in.
Like, yo.
I'm in, man. I'm in. March 22nd. Let's go. What's out in March?
Yo, wait. What is out in March? Let's see.
Not that much, I don't think.
Wait, this is an
we got
RPG
stuff now.
though.
We got stuff in February. I don't know that there's a big game out in March besides this.
So let's see. So I'm pulling up the release calendar here. We got March. So we got no. Come on,
Damn, I can't believe. By the way, this sequel's been cooking for a long time. The first game came out in 2012. It's crazy. I don't think they've been working on it that entire time, probably, but like.
So as far as March goes, right? So we have, and this is a very much me thing. Unicorn Overlord.
Okay.
They're the same company.
That one.
Yes, like that game's gonna be fire, insane, but we'll digress. They have the Princess Peach game.
Sure.
South Park. There really isn't too much coming out in March, to be fair.
Saying.
Alone in the Dark is coming out in March. So we'll see how that goes.
Yeah, that's like, those are all good games or whatever, but like they all have a specific audience. I think this could hit. This could really
and then the one thing I will say is that even though it doesn't come out in March, it comes out on February 29th, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, so it's basically March.
You could be done with that in a month, though. That's not crazy.
I wish I had time to beat it in a month.
Yo, you gotta be staying up later, my guy.
Oh man. And now I'm about to start like the new shift in the beginning of March where I have to get up at 8 a.m. Or not get up, I have to be at work at 8 a.m. I say as I work from home, like I'm like
so you're gonna get up at 7:55. You'll be fine.
Poor me.
Just saying, you stay up till 2 a.m. That's at least 6 hours of sleep. You're fine. You got it.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. Like I have to find a way to squeeze in Persona 3 Reloaded Yakuza Infinite Wealth, and Final Fantasy.
You know, I just showed my whole ass though, Ken. Because here's the thing: there's another game. The next game, it I don't know if this is correct, but it's saying here that it's out on March 22nd as well. Rise of the
The
Ronin,
what?
is that true?
Wait,
IGN
what?
saying that. I don't know if that's right.
Oh, it does come out March 22nd.
Okay.
I completely looked over that because I don't
Like,
care
that
about that game.
blows because I'm very interested in both of those games. This was the other game that really, like, we've seen it a couple times. The last time they showed it, I was like, this looks pretty sick. The moment to moment, I was like, I don't know, this looks pretty fun. Like, I have a giant Ghost of Tsushima sized hole in my heart, and I'm waiting for Ghost 2. And like, I could fuck around with Rise of the Ronin until then. That sounds cool.
You know what? I think that's it. I've never played Ghost of Tsushima, right?
Bro,
I
oh,
think
you gotta
the,
play Ghost. Ghost is so goddamn good. And the PS5 version slaps.
yeah, it's on my list, but it's one of those things where it's like every time I think I'm going to start playing it, something else comes out. Uh, it was like
Make
that
time
for the
for it.
longest.
I'll tell you this, Ken. That game came out how long ago? 2020?
I feel like it was longer than that, but
I think it's
I'll look it up
2020. I think it came out in 2020, last year, the PS4, prior to PS5 launch. I want you to guess how many times I've beaten that game.
3 times.
That's right. I don't usually
Oh,
play
spot
games
on.
twice. I play that game 3 times. That's how fucking
Uh,
good it is.
alrighty. So like, that's one of those games like up until recently, like Cyberpunk, that's been on my list, but I just constantly been putting it on my back burner. And I just now got around to Cyberpunk, and
That
I'm
game's fine.
loving
Whatever. Play Ghost. Ghost is
it.
awesome. But
All right.
Rise of the Ronin, I think this looks really solid. I think similarly to what I said about Stellar Blade earlier, this game, I think I've been interested in it, but when I've seen it, I've kind of been like, what's the story going to be like? Like, what's the, like, is this just another like stylish hack and slash type game? And I think it showed that it looks like it has more depth than that. I think I felt like this had some fucking juice.
I will say this, right? When the guy busted out a Glock, I was like, oh, okay, this is different. I can respect that. And then when he busted out the flamethrower, I was like, oh, fair enough. Fair enough. I guess the thing is, if this is
I
more,
literally laughed out loud. I was like, that's a little nuts, but
yo, but I kind of like it. Like that gives it some personality. I'll give it that. And I guess
sure,
my thing
sure.
is, if this is more action, in the sense of like a typical action game with like customizations and like different ways you can like make your build, and a little bit less because I don't like Dark Souls. I don't like those Souls like games. I wasn't a huge fan of those. What was that other really popular sword game that was kind of like Dark Souls that came out a couple of years ago? Um, what was it called?
Neo?
Neo. Yeah, like I didn't care for Neo.
Okay.
Um, so I'm like, I don't think this looks like Neo, but like if it's one of those games where it's like you die over and over and over again, it's
I
getting
think it
good.
feels more like Ghost, which is like the Ubisoft type. It's an open world. You're doing quests and you're helping people and you're getting upgrades, and that's what it looks like to me. But we'll see, I
Yeah,
guess.
and if it is like that, then I'll give it a fair shot. But I feel like you'll like kill me in my sleep if I play this before Ghost.
Yeah, you
So
better play
I'm
Ghost
not
before
touching it
this. You better play
anytime
Ghost
soon.
before this. Yeah, this is the thing you said about Nier. This is Ghost for that for me. All right,
You know what? Fair comparison. Fair. Yo, I'll play Ghost if you play Near.
deal, fucking deal. I'm in.
uh,
All right. Next up, we are getting a re-release of a really fire PS4 exclusive, Until Dawn, coming to PS5 and PC. I love this. Until Dawn is a fantastic game. I love Supermassive, and seeing this finally come to PC, I think is going to be really sick. It's going to be opening up to a whole new audience. And obviously, getting to see it come back on PS5 for folks who might have missed it the first time around. Great, great news.
it's like not much to say about that one. No doubt, inspired by the upcoming movie that they just put into production.
Sure.
Which, in my opinion, they should just get the people who played the actors who played the characters in the game to reprise the roles for the movie if
The
they
only
have the
problem with
budget
that
for it.
is they're all supposed to be teenagers, and all those people are in their like 40s.
Yeah, or like think about it, like let's have it be like an adult getaway. Oh, we had to leave the kids at home or something like that. You
Sure.
know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
Like if you actually think about the story as a whole without spoiling it for those who might play it for the first
Sure.
time in the near future, there really wasn't too much in that game wise, story wise, that screamed they had to be,
No, yeah, you can make
20
them
something
adults.
year olds.
Yeah, you can
Yeah,
easily do that.
and they're all already actors. Just bring them back.
You
Even
could
though,
very easily set it up where they are all childhood friends and they're, like, reuniting, you know?
yeah, and then it
Easy.
just works out. But
Um,
I I digress. That's just like my gut. But next is the actual movie.
yeah,
That's right.
Death Stranding 2 on the beach.
This took up 25% of the entire direct. Of
Why
the
is
40
this
minutes, this was 10.
listen. Alright, listen. It's so hard for me to talk about Kojima without sounding like an asshole sometimes, because like, I really do respect the man, and also, I've never met a person who needed an editor or somebody to rein his ass in more than Hideo Kojima. God bless him. But this
No,
is
let
the
him cook. Let him cook.
yeah, and absolutely, because he's crazy, and I love that he makes crazy shit. Like, I genuinely respect the hell out of that. And it's so goddamn weird that this game is called Death Stranding 2 on the beach, and there's no colon, like it's not a sub. Why wouldn't you just call it Death Stranding on the beach? Why don't you just call it Death Stranding 2? I don't know. He's wild with it. And I'll say this, I really hated the marketing for Death Stranding. By the time that game came out, I was so upset by how much of it I had to sit through, and it made me resent the game to the point where I was like, "There's no fucking universe I'm even gonna try this game because I've seen 45 minutes of it, and it makes me irate every time I see it."
Yo,
This
listen.
trailer, look, and it might be great. I'm fine. It's
Wait,
removed
so
enough.
you still haven't played it?
No, dude,
You should play it.
I was
You
so
should play it.
uninterested,
You
so
really
uninterested by
should.
the
You
time
really
it came
should
out.
though. You really should though. Like
Steve
I
played
want
it
to
and
be
he
near it
liked it.
first.
He played it on deck later, so, I'd like to give it a shot. I'm not gonna sit here and badmouth the game, but its marketing drove me to the point of not wanting to play it. And the reason I bring that up is to say that this trailer up until it ended and then it went on for another minute and a half as he loves to do. I thought was actually really good. I thought it was paced well. I thought it did a good job of establishing like intrigue and introducing, like the Troy Baker character with his crazy fucking guitar,
Guitar.
gun, sword, whatever. Like that shit's
Just the
awesome.
most raddest thing.
It's like
Um,
so Saturday morning cartoon comic book. Like this is psycho shit, and I love it. And he looks like the Crow. Like what the fuck? It's awesome. Really cool. Really good execution. It's just again like my man needs to pace his shit shorter. It really did not. It's like you hit a point where I was like, wow, what a trailer. And then it's like, all right, now here's another 2 minutes of lore, and it's like, okay, guy, let's just wrap it up.
you see,
Um,
like here's the thing: if you played the first game, those last 2 minutes are like, oh, oh,
Yeah, but it's
okay.
like, do you need that? Like, that's the whole thing is like he
Yes,
tells you
please give me
so
more.
much. It's like,
Just feed it to me,
just let me
please. I
play
would
the
like more,
game. It's fine. Just give me
and I
the
will
game.
next year. But until then, give me
Oh God.
more. Give me
2025. You're
more.
right. It's coming. It's coming. But yeah, so, good showing, I thought, actually, right? Like, as somebody who's like kind of a Death Stranding hater, and not really, but like kind of, I thought this looked good. And I'm like, all right, like cool setup for the story. It's like America got back online in the first game. Now he's part of this like civilian group that's like trying to go out and help other countries get back online.
Oh,
And
there is so much more in that first game. There is so much more. Oh my goodness.
I'm just saying, like the
I'm
the
thinking about it now.
the setup here, right? Of how they're
Okay,
pitching it. I'm like,
fair.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Like this is like this is so much more digestible, and it's like I get what's happening, even though I really don't because I didn't play the first game. Uh, because it's not a secret. It's not his new IP. It's not his first new IP in since Metal Gear, right? It's like I don't feel like he's as like secretive about it. So it's like cool. Like I can. There's enough here for me to grab onto something, and this is the first time I saw something from Death Stranding, like promotionally, that I was like, oh, I'm actually interested in that. And it's like, great, awesome, cool. Don't show me more.
Tell me a
So
little bit more.
I'm sure I'm in the minority on that one. So you Kojima freaks, I love you. I love your Lord and Savior Kojima. No disrespect, but I'm gonna razz him the next time he puts a fucking 6-minute trailer in front of my face. And I think we all just need to be okay with that. And I think that's cool. So let me tell you this though. Normally when they have him come on and talk after his trailer, he says like a lot of not, it's like, yeah, it's I'm Kojima and I'm awesome and you all just want to hear me talk and that's good enough,
And we
right?
do.
Yeah, and we do. And it's like fair enough, right? Like I get it. But this one, it's like, oh, by the way, I'm partnering with PlayStation to make a fucking, game that is going to be the culmination of my work. And obviously they really leaned into the whole movie thing shooting out of the studio or whatever. But like let's, come on. The fucking headline here is that it's
It's an espionage game.
it's an
It's like
espionage game.
they
He
took away
says
Metal Gear, but I still got that dog in me. Like,
yeah, and
don't
it's
forget
like
who I am with this like swagged out jacket. Like, my God.
and it's like come on, that's a big fucking deal that PlayStation has their flag on that. It's like, all right, like okay, that's pretty big. That's a pretty big deal. Um, and I'll tell you this, I'm like low key convinced that he's a vampire. You know, he's like,
Yeah,
oh,
no.
2 years, I'm celebrating 40 years of game development. It's like, bro, what the fuck? He doesn't look like he's in his 60s.
Wait, how old is Hideo Kojima?
He's like 58 or 59.
See, he's 60 now.
He's 60 now. Okay, yeah. That's what I'm saying, dude. It's crazy. I swear to God, he's a vampire.
Like,
Anyway,
that's what, good healthcare does to a man. Uh,
he's just a real motherfucker too. It's just like it's 40 years of just killing it, and you gotta respect it. You gotta respect the game.
he has yet to seriously miss. Some of the stuff he makes isn't for everyone, but he hasn't like missed.
No, yeah, because I think the stuff he makes that's not for everyone is it's art house shit, right? Where it's like, yeah, like it's not for everybody, but it's not supposed to be. It's trying to challenge people and challenge the medium and try to do something weird because he can get weird shit made. So it's like, yeah, like if you've been in an industry for 40 years and they're writing you the kind of checks to make weird games like Death Stranding and you don't make weird games like Death Stranding, I think you're doing your art form a disservice. It's like
Yo,
he's out here
facts.
trying to, and it's like, I don't know, like his weird, like, oh, I'm pushing the boundaries between movies and games. Part of me is just like, why don't we just let this man make a movie already and let him just fucking get it out of his system?
Didn't he like make a movie studio, or is he like in the process of doing that? I think he's doing something with like A20. No, yeah, he's doing something with
I
A24.
don't remember. There's something like that. And the thing he just announced at Summer Games Fest with, where, what's his name?
Jordan Peele.
Yeah, Jordan Peele came out and everything like that is also supposed to be like a hybrid. Who knows? But whatever. My man's out here. He's been making hits for 40 years. He's earned the right to make whatever weird fucking thing he wants to make at this point, right? So like,
And they're still good. Like,
and
Death
the
Stranding is like
masses,
the epitome of the
yeah,
art house shit, right? But it's good, so we're cool with it.
yeah,
As long as it's
do it, man.
fun, like,
He's the only
it's not for
person who
everyone, though.
makes weird art house games like in AAA, which is like cool. Fucking A, do it. Go off,
Yeah,
dude.
let them do it.
So
And then,
we wrapped it up with the announcement of our next state of play, which is very soon. It's going to be on February 6th. So that's literally less than a week from today. And we're going to be getting a deep dive into Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. Ken, you're going to have to come back and join me for this one because nobody else cares about Final Fantasy on this channel like I do. So
yeah, so like, I'm like 50-50. Like, if you want me back, I'll watch it. But like, my gut reaction is like, you already have my money. Like, I'm going to play it day one. I don't need to watch like a 30-40 minute deep dive. I'll just reserve the surprise.
I'm generally with you on that, but I think we gotta,
Yeah, like, we have to because of this. But if it weren't for the podcast, I'd be like, yo, just it comes out in like
I'm
3 weeks.
I'm already in.
I'm already here.
I already bought a copy. I'm in.
Yeah,
Tell me the thing.
but like, I do wish we had a little bit of Kingdom Hearts 4 in this presentation, though. I'm just saying.
No. Don't even start, bro. That game is 30 years away. I don't want to see another fucking hide or hair of it until it's closer. Don't even.
Like, let's see. When did that trailer come out?
2020?
It was announced in 2022.
Yeah, dude, you're not gonna see that.
But it's been in development since January of 2020, which means at this point, it's been in development for 4 years.
Yeah, whatever.
And likewise, the reason 3 took so long to come out is because they made all of these in-between games like Dream Drop Distance, Birth by Sleeps,
Yeah.
uh,
And then they still
Chain of
worked on it for
Memories.
like 8 years. I, I don't know, man. We'll see. We'll see. All right. But like,
Oh,
I don't get too excited.
is Nomura working on 7 remake or
Yeah,
rebirth?
dude. He's he's
Okay, so
the
yeah,
he's
no,
the head of
Kingdom Hearts
those
isn't coming
too.
out. Kingdom Hearts isn't coming out anytime
No,
soon.
it's
Nah.
not coming out for like 10 years, dude. No. You got to just put that one away. It's not happening.
Oh
They
man.
never should have shown us that trailer. All that did was just raise our hopes just so that we could just be sitting in this again, you know? No way. I'm not doing that again. I did it for Kingdom Hearts 3. I'm not doing it again.
Oh man. I just remember crying during the opening like title sequence of Kingdom Hearts 2. I was like, hey yo, I didn't die before this
I
came
know
out.
I made it.
I can
All
finally
right.
rest. And then I got the post credit scene. I'm like, fuck.
Yes,
not
I'm in.
not today, buddy.
You'll be crying about this when you're 50 years old now. So anyway, I think overall, really solid state of play. I think state of
On
plays are often extremely underwhelming, and I think this was not, right?
on a scale of 1 to 10, what would you rank it?
In I, in terms of like overall presentations, I think it sits in a solid 7, right? Like maybe a high 7, right? Like maybe a low 8, depending on what your tastes are, but I'd lean more towards the 7. Um, I think by the PlayStation State of Play metric, I would definitely say it's an 8 because there have been some really
Bad
goddamn
ones.
just needless, utterly needless state of plays. And this, I think, had juice. There were games here that are exciting. They had a couple really cool announcements. They had a couple cool reveals, you know. And I think the stuff that made up the rest of the show, while it might not be for you, the individual, I think they are all games that look good for fans of the genre, which is with an event like this. I think if you take away 2 to 3 games that you felt high on, then that's a successful presentation.
Yo, fair enough. And I would simply because I'm a Kojima san, would probably give it like an 8 personally. I do wish there was like one more like surprise. I think that it was missing like that one like, oh, we never saw this coming, like them dropping like a new Wolverine trailer. Like they wouldn't
Yeah.
do that obviously for that
Well,
game,
I
but
mean, that's the thing is like, I think something like that is what we needed though. Like, I think even if it was just like a cinematic tease of like, here's a peek at the next IP from such and such, or like Ghost of Tsushima 2, right? Like something like that, I think would have been like, oh, okay. Like,
Spider-Man DLC, something like that, like just like a little something extra to
yeah.
like
If
add
that
on
Venom
top.
game that leaked is real, right? Like that, if that's still happening, like that is the kind of thing that like if you had something like that to show, I think it would have been like, oh, all right, yeah, absolutely. But I think it just being just below that is not bad, right?
Yeah, yeah. Overall, I did not feel like I wasted 40 minutes of my life,
No,
which is
no.
more than I can say about some of the other ones, but
Yeah,
I digress.
I agree. I agree. Well paced too. Okay, so Ken, thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, we'll have to have you back for Final Fantasy in a couple weeks or a week. Sorry, excuse me,
I'll
PlayStation.
see you in 6 days, Pete.
See you in a few minutes. They're spinning them out these days. Thank you guys. If you want to let us know what you thought about today's state of play, or if you want to write in ahead of next week's state of play with your thoughts, feelings, and questions about Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, remember there's a bunch of ways you can get involved and write into the show. You can find all of them at flipscreen.games. That's our website. Where you can find ways to support the show, join the community, write in, get your thoughts right on the air. However you choose to get involved, we thank you for tuning in to another episode of the podcast. For the crew, I've been Pete. He's been Ken. We'll see you next week.